What do most people think when they hear the name Hershey? The image that will most likely come to mind is of a candy bar wrapped in brown tinfoil, or of Mr. Hershey himself as the Chocolate King. But he was so much more than that. As a leader, Mr. Hershey had many visions: to make chocolate cheap enough for the average American to buy, to create a pleasant community where people could have steady jobs and an enjoyable lifestyle, and to create a school where boys who didn't have the opportunities of most kids could get a sound education in schooling, trade skills, and important life standards. To support this thesis, follow me as I move through my documentary and highlight the things I've said to show them in their historical reality. A good model, or leader, will not only have great visions, but will work to make them happen. Mr. Hershey made the chocolate bar as cheap as any other candy. It was in good quality and was made like no other chocolate ever in the U.S. The factory provided jobs for people who were not only the farmers who gave him milk, but the people who lived in his town. This town was Hershey, and was not only made with the necessities of an industrial town, but a fun place to live in. Mr. Hershey built, among many other things, pools, free schools, libraries, clubs, an amusement park, and a zoo. By 1905, he had turned the small community of Derry Church into a boom town. A journalist from the Business of the World said, in reference to the town of Hershey, "There is no position for a police department, nor a jail. Here there will be no unhappiness. Then why any crime?" This quote may be over the top about the town, but why? Did the town of Hershey really have that much effect on people? Even now, Hershey's called the sweetest place on earth. What Mr. Hershey did with his money was so different compared to most millionaires that people were in awe. A good leader will be an exceptional example to the people he's impressing. Mr. Hershey didn't just give his money away, but he used it to set up a community where people could always benefit even after he died. The way Mr. Hershey was using his money put thousands of people into steady jobs. It was the ultimate gift that kept on giving. Men of wealth should give their money to the betterment of their fellows, for they cannot take their money with them when they cease to exist. Mr. Hershey gave the town everything it could ask for, but he wanted to go above and beyond the call of duty. Once he built the town, he would start a school that would have a lasting effect on future generations. Of course, it was Kitty's idea, as he so often said, but Mr. Hershey himself was the one to build and fund the school. It was built in 1909. Catherine Hershey and Milton Hershey had no children of their own. So Kitty, as Mr. Hershey affectionately called his wife, had this idea to make the Hershey Industrial School, or Milton Hershey School, as it was called later. I have no heirs, that is, no children, so I decided to make the orphan boys of the United States my heirs. In 1918, Mr. Hershey quietly gave the bulk of his fortune, which was $60 million of the Hershey Company stock, in a trust fund to the benefit of the school. He did this without promoting himself, for the story didn't even reach the newspaper until 5 years later. The school wasn't to be any ordinary school. It was to be a home where the orphan boys who had lost their fathers could live in a family setting, get a sound education, and learn basic life training. Most of them will have better chances of character building and education. Perhaps they don't have the chance to make as much money as some individuals have made, but they will lead happier lives. The children who went to the school, or homeboys as they were called, had chores, just like any other kid. They were farm chores as well as house chores. In this, they were taught obedience, self-discipline, the ability to stick to a job, and maybe most importantly, responsibility.
We got up every morning at 5 o'clock and out to the barn. I had to milk 5 cows before I got my breakfast. Then as soon as I got done with breakfast, I came out, finished the dairy, got ready for school. It was great to get out in the field as a 12, 13-year-old boy and be responsible for a team of mules and a piece of equipment.
The sense of a normal family life was the key to how the homeboys' lives were changed, because the Hershey Industrial School wasn't meant to be a boarding school, but a home. And there were individual houses all over the campus where about 20 boys would stay. And they weren't dorm rooms either. They were real houses. The boys ate around the kitchen table with the house parents. They sat in the living room and played the piano that every home had, or watched television, or played games, just like a real family. And maybe the most important element of making these houses homes for boys was the house parents. The house parents were usually a married couple with little or no children. They worked and lived at the homes. They were strict but kind. To the homeboys, they were almost like real parents. Those of us who reflected back on it, first as a home, then as a school. Mr. Hershey had a vision of this sense of home life for the students who went to his school, but he couldn't have that much hand in directing the education of the homeboys as he did in the building of his town, because remember, he had little education growing up himself. School wasn't something he was good at, or even knew much about.
I don't think he worked too much of leading. I think he had other people who did the leading for him. He was just an administrator. I mean, just by picking the right people. He had good lawyers, wrote up all his deed of trust and everything, and the people run the factory for him. He just selecting the people. He was a good administrator that way.
Looking back on the words he said, I realized that a good leader knows when to step back. Mr. James McMahon, director of the MHS Heritage Center, gave me these ideas. He said,
Mr. Hershey's strength is that he realized what his strengths were. So when it came to the town and the community, he was definitely a hands-on leader. He knew what he wanted, and it was done. When it came to the school, his leadership was a little bit different. It was more about empowering people. So we had senior administrators here, the Copenhavers, who were the superintendent and his wife, and they pretty much ran the school. Mr. Hershey was involved, but it wasn't a hands-on type of involvement.
This was Mr. Hershey's legacy. The school, the town, all the things he worked on to make Hershey a better place. But as time moves on, things change. And was the Hershey Industrial School to change with it? It needed to keep up with the times, but would that change the mission of the school? Welcome to the big debate of Milton Hershey's legacy. When Mr. Hershey and Catherine started the Hershey Industrial School, they needed to make a deed of trust. In 1909, which was when the Hershey Industrial School was built, the deed of trust had these standards. No one fixed or established course shall be taken by all scholars, this being the discretion of the managers, bearing in mind that the main object in view is to train young men to useful trades and occupations so they can learn their own livelihood. In 1909, the people who could apply for the school were boys ages 4 to 8 whose father had died. By 1933, it was boys ages 4 to 14 whose father or mother had died. By 1951, the name was changed to the Milton Hershey School. By 1970, it was boys ages 4 to 16 with no preference to race or color. By 1976, it was boys and girls who were orphans and social orphans who came from poor families that could not support them. These were all good changes, but some of the alumni were concerned that the actual mission of the school was changed. By the 1980s, the school had undergone some major modifications. It was nearly a completely new board of trustees and managers. The school was changing from an industrial school into a college prep school. The alumni said that the new people who were in charge didn't understand Mr. Hershey's visions for the school.
And we worked the fields, we worked very hard. I think the students that are here now miss out on that. And at the same token, I don't think they're going to learn the work ethic that we learned. I think it was very good for me.
One man named Joe Burning deeply researched into the history of the school and said that the sort of people who went into the past wouldn't even qualify now. An alum named Lou Boshin said, I felt as if the outsiders didn't understand the place and didn't understand how Mr. Hershey had come in and taken control. We use the word family when we talk about the school. I got thousands of brothers and sisters who were part of that family. How would you feel if someone came in and wanted to change your family? For better or for worse, Mr. Hershey's legacy was changing. History can't keep up with how fast time moves. The Milton Hershey School has a completely new perspective on how it should be run. Although the school has changed over time, Mr. Hershey's legacy lives on. His vision has made thousands of kids have better opportunities, and so you see, his legacy is more than just a chocolate bar.